Hey, this is Patrick Flaherty, and I'm back with Deep Astrology. And just to get this all out of the way, so I don't forget, I'm at Deep Astrology on Facebook, YouTube, and I do a podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, all at Deep Astrology. I haven't posted a lot in the last few weeks. I've been kind of in a saga of moving. So hopefully I will be getting back to that more consistently soon. But I wanted to come in today because I've got my big talk coming up at the Magical Marketplace and Psychic Fair in Boxborough, Mass., which is happening on the first weekend in April. So I believe that it would be the 6th and the 7th, Saturday and Sunday. And I know that because the big eclipse is on the 8th. And I hope I got all that right. So I'll be giving a talk at the Magical Marketplace on the upcoming aspects of Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto that are coming up in the next few months, and will be lasting a large part of the rest of this decade. So there's a really huge, what you would call a configuration or aspects between these three planets, which we don't see a lot. And I will be giving a talk, at this conference about what it means and how to work with it. And so I thought I would use today as sort of a practice run for that. And you guys can, if you don't make it to the psychic fair in Boxborough, you can, you can hear it now. So I think I talked in my first episode here at LCAT on Pluto going into the sign of Aquarius. So that is part of this configuration that we're going to see. So what we have going on is Pluto entering a new sign and Neptune also entering a new sign and Uranus entering a new sign all at the same time. So this is a huge shift in tone, sort of like energetic or psychic tone in the world and society and culture, because we have all three outer planets shifting basically from feminine signs, from water and earth signs, into the masculine signs, into air and fire signs. So that's one thing, and they don't normally all shift at the same time. So Pluto is in Aquarius now. It's actually going to come back to Capricorn for a couple of months this fall, and then it'll be fully in Aquarius starting in November. And then a few months later, around the spring equinox, we'll have Neptune entering Aries. And then a few months later, around the solstice, we'll have Uranus entering Gemini. That will be in 2025. So not only are they all changing signs at the same time, but they're going to be in a configuration with each other, which is very powerful. Uranus and Pluto will be in a what's called a trine configuration. It's 120 degrees. And it's, definitely better than a square configuration. Trines are meant to be more harmonious. And then Neptune will be right in the middle, forming what's called a sextile to both Pluto and Uranus. So we'll have, if you're looking at a clock face, you would see Uranus over here at, say, 10 o'clock, and Pluto at 2 o'clock, and then Neptune would be right in the middle at 12 o'clock. So this is a lineup that doesn't happen very often. You'll have Pluto at 1 degree Aquarius, Neptune at 1 degree Aries, Gemini at 1 degree, Uranus at 1 degree Gemini, and then 2026, they'll all be at 4 degrees, same signs, So this configuration will be holding really for most of the decade. And there'll be other planets involved as well. I don't know. I don't think I'm going to get too much into that right now. But there's even more involved than those three planets. So why is this a big deal? The outer planets have been called the root forces that move humanity. So when we see major social movements, major events happening, you can usually look at the outer planets and find some kind of significant configuration between them. So like Uranus, Pluto opposition, or Neptune, Uranus square. We'll usually see some major aspect between these three outer planets when there are significant events happening. So I'd say the main aspect that we're going to be seeing is the Uranus-Pluto square, Uranus-Pluto trine that's coming up. And just to give you some background or a way of looking at it, Uranus and Pluto came together in the mid-60s. So, they are both planets that are known to kind of disrupt the status quo. Let's put it that way. Uranus is related to the idea of revolution, of improving things, of going sort of beyond the status quo and looking for new solutions and creative breakthroughs. And Pluto is about death and rebirth. So when these two planets get together, you're going to see big changes happening. And if you look back, say at the decades, let's say since World War II, I don't think you could find a decade with more change than the 1960s. We had change going on at every level. So these two, and that was the Uranus-Pluto, coming together in the same sign, a conjunction. So now, what are we, 60 odd years later, we have Uranus and Pluto coming together again, not in a conjunction, but in a trine. So we're going to have some of these same energies, these same themes coming up in the latter part of this decade, issues around revolution and, death and rebirth. So there's going to be a hell of a lot of change happening in the latter part of this decade. And then we have Neptune in there, so that's going to be bringing in even more energy. So we'll have all these three planets working together. So I guess where I would go now is talk about, what do these planets mean? What do they signify? And then we'll talk about how to look at your chart, or have someone else look at your chart. But I realize I'm probably talking to a wide array of people. Some people who don't know much at all about astrology, and then some people who do know some stuff about astrology. And I know a lot of people carry their natal charts around on their phone. So you could look at your chart and see what's going on, and see if this configuration is going to affect you. So I think first I will maybe just get into what these three planets mean, and then we'll go into how to find it on your chart and see if it's going to affect you in your personal life. So Uranus was discovered in the 1780s, and it was right between the American Revolution and the French Revolution. And so the planet Uranus astrologically has always been related to the idea of revolution and wanting to change the status quo, not wanting to go along with, whatever the conventional program was at the current time. So Uranus is definitely related to, an idea of individualism and freedom. At the same time, there's a duality to Uranus, which is related to the sign of Aquarius. Uranus is the modern ruler of Aquarius. So, there is this sense of revolution and freedom and individualism, but there can be a dark side as well, whereas, where we've got this program that's supposed to improve society and it's going to be better for everybody. And then, we're going to impose it on everyone. There can be, it's sort of a fine line between utopia and dystopia, so you want to improve things, and yet if you do it in a way that's imposing that program on everyone, then it's not about freedom any longer. So Uranus is kind of a double-edged sword, Uranus and the sign of Aquarius. So that's basically Uranus. It's more of a masculine energy. I would say it's more related to the element of air and the mind. So, and we're going to have Uranus in Gemini, which is this, another air sign. We're going to have Pluto in an air sign. So there's going to be a lot of debate, a lot of, examination of our belief systems coming up in the next several years with these two planets of revolution and death and rebirth in an air sign. We're going to be examining our thoughts and beliefs and, throwing out the old ones and trying on new ones. As I think I mentioned in my first video, it will be confusing, it will be disorienting, but I think there's going to be a process of examining what we believe and, if it really serves us. So I think in the end, hopefully, it will serve a greater good. But in the meantime, it's definitely going to be tumultuous, let's say, because people, we like our belief systems and we like them to be stable. And when those belief systems get, I think we can all recognize that. And if we, don't recognize it in ourselves, we certainly recognize it in other people. When you challenge other people's belief systems, it can be very uncomfortable, whether it's religious or political or even about diet. I used to do a lot of stuff on social media about, the paleo diet or the keto diet, and, that would be a challenge to people who were vegan, and just people would get extremely upset. And I basically, I just had to stop. It was too much, because people get very attached to their belief systems. And it's very difficult for us to change our belief systems. Now, I have Uranus very prominent in my chart. I have a couple of planets in the sign of Aquarius. So I actually have gone through a lot of changing of my own personal belief systems over my life. And some of that has been about diet, where I was vegetarian for a while, and then I was following a paleo diet, and then I was following a ketogenic diet, and then a carnivore diet, and now I'm, doing something else. I'm not exactly sure what I'm doing right now as far as diet, but I'm just giving that as an example that, because I've had this planet Uranus very prominent in my chart, and for those of you who know about astrology, I'll just say I have Uranus square my sun. I have Uranus conjunct both Jupiter and my south node. So it's quite prominent. And I have my moon in Uranus, so I've got a lot going on with that kind of energy. And so I've probably been more comfortable than most, when it comes to changing my belief systems. And still, I know how stressful it can be, when you've got something and you think it's working, and then you realize it's not working, and you've got to rethink everything, in a certain area of your life, whether it's spiritually or has to do with your career or politically or whatever. So I know how stressful that can be. And so what I'm saying is, the next few years, a lot of us are going to be going through that with these configurations, particularly with Pluto, Uranus trine, Pluto in Aquarius, both Pluto and Uranus in air signs, I would expect this, and if you're not feeling it, you're definitely going to know someone who's feeling it and going through it. And I think, that's where astrology can be helpful, is, when these huge shifts are occurring, just to have a little bit of a heads up about, this is going to be going on, and it's normal, and there's a process happening, and there's kind of a purpose behind the process, whereas, that's the kind of the way I try to look at it is the purpose of all the change is to hopefully come through it and evolve through the change and come to something that serves ourselves and serves other people better. So so we've covered Uranus. It's about ideas, it's about creative breakthroughs, it's about our belief systems, changing our belief systems. Pluto is more, I like to call it the earthy outer planet. So if, you could think of Uranus as belonging to like sixth and seventh chakra energy, more mental energy. And Pluto is more first and second chakra energy. So when Pluto, when Pluto comes to town, when we have a Pluto transit, it's those deeper bodily impulses that are going to be affected in terms of first and second chakra issues, so survival issues, sexual issues. We say that Pluto rules Scorpio, or if it doesn't rule Scorpio, it's associated with the sign of Scorpio. Scorpio is associated with sex and death, those kind of issues. Scorpio rules the hip area and the pelvis area. So again, it's these kind of issues that come up. I mean, when we had Pluto and Uranus combined in the 60s, yes, there was a lot of changing of our ideas and ideals about everything across the board. But we also had a sexual revolution in the 60s. That was Pluto. So, I don't know what's left in terms of having a sexual revolution. I think I'm not sure I'm going to predict anything around that, but I think one thing that Pluto and Scorpio are about is the parts of our psyches that are difficult to deal with, the difficult emotions. So I like to say that Scorpio and the 8th house, which is related to Scorpio and related to Pluto, that's about, it's sort of like the closet or the cupboard where we like to put all the issues and aspects of our lives that we don't want to deal with. So, we're talking about trauma or just difficult things that, we don't want to deal with day to day, or that were sort of trauma that came up in childhood that we never dealt with. Any kind of Pluto transit is going to bring this stuff up. So that's why I'm saying that this configuration coming up in the next few years, it's going to be a real doozy. I mean, because it's going to hit us on every level. It's going to hit us on the level of our belief systems, but it's also going to hit us on the level of our psychological trauma, and like, okay, it's time to deal with this stuff, and and all that stuff is going to come together. And again, it's not going to be for everybody, and I'll get to some of the technical details as far as numbers, so you can look at your chart and see if where you're at with that. So I think that's, I want to kind of keep this to 30 or 40 minutes, so I don't know if I want to get into too much more Pluto stuff, but I think that gives you a feel for the kinds of stuff that could come up, and so where you have a Pluto transit, it's about dealing with those issues that we kind of like to stuff down. Like I've done a lot of body work, and I was trained as a body worker. I never really actually went through with the career, but I've had a lot of body work done to me, and I know a lot about it. And they do say that we tend to stuff the emotions we don't want to deal with, into that pelvic area. So that's what Pluto and Scorpio are about, that first and second chakra issue. Neptune is about the heart, so we're kind of covering, the whole system. And Neptune ultimately is about where we look for the divine, where we look to sort of transcend our sense of separateness and, unite with the larger cosmos or with humanity. So, when we have a Neptune transit, it can activate spiritual longings, but the other two areas it could activate are just maybe something to do with service, serving humanity, or something to do with artistic expression. So those are the three areas: spirituality, artistic expression, and service to humanity that Neptune can activate. So if you have Neptune strong in your chart, which I do, I have all three of these strong in my chart, so lucky me, right? If you have Neptune strong in your chart, then you may have had a strong spiritual longing all your life that you've had to deal with and figure out how to give time to and express and find maybe your own particular spiritual path to address that spiritual longing. But if you have Neptune strong in your chart, you may also have a real artistic bent, which I do. I've got both. I'm a musician, or you may be drawn toward service, and maybe you actually do something in your career for service. So, the Neptune part of this transit is going to bring in all those issues. So it's really like these three planets coming together it's really like a body, heart, and mind, like total transit that's happening over the next 3, 4, 5 years. And I'll get into, the numbers. So, like I said, they will be meeting up in the early the early degrees of those 3 signs: Aquarius, Aries, and Gemini. So, but actually, pretty much starting now, but definitely getting into the summer. In the late summer, they will all be hanging out in the very late degrees. Pluto will be in Capricorn, Neptune will be in Pisces, and Taurus will be in, Uranus will be in Taurus. So this summer, late this summer or early fall, anybody with significant points, say 26, 27, 28, 29, in any sign. I mean, that's the thing about this configuration, is because the way they're showing up in 3 different signs, any sign whatsoever that you have planets, say from 26 to 29 later this year, will be getting hit by this configuration. And if you have it in a feminine sign, which would be the earth and the water signs, I think it will be even more potent, but it will hit you too if you have something in an air or fire sign. So for instance, take my chart for an example. I've got my midheaven at 27 degrees of Taurus. So that Uranus will be at exactly 27 degrees of Taurus later this year, hanging out right on that degree. And at the same time, we'll have Pluto at 29 Capricorn, so we'll be in a trine configuration to my MC or midheaven, and we'll have Neptune at a sextile. So I will have all 3 outer planets in a very close configuration with my midheaven. Midheaven's about like career stuff, your calling. So, and actually I've been going through this for a number of years with Pluto and then with Neptune, because when you have a outer planet transit, it lasts for 2 to 5 years because they move so slowly. So I've been dealing with this for 2 to 3 years at least with Pluto and then Neptune, and now Uranus is moving in, and so it'll be all 3 planets. So just to have even one of the outer planets configuring your midheaven, you're looking at very possible, major career change. To have all 3 planets on your midheaven, you better be ready. I did a chart for somebody who had exactly that going on. She actually had her midheaven at 1 degree Gemini, so this will actually be coming up for her in 2025. She will have the same thing happening for her. And, no surprise, she wants to change her career. So she's already feeling it. She wants to move. She's doing like psychotherapy, and she wants to do more teaching work. I'm not exactly sure, what, but, basically she wants to change up her career and to give herself more freedom, which is Uranus, and, possibly to cover different topics, that would, of her choice, so those topics might be, have to do more with, some of these transits from Pluto and Neptune. I know she's beginning into the Course in Miracles. Course in Miracles is very Neptunian. Some, she might be throwing into some of that. I don't know. But anyway, she had started, making some career shifts and then kind of meeting up with some difficulties, as we often do, and that's because these planets, they move forward and then they move retrograde. So there's always going to be like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But I told her, like, looking at your chart, it's like your career is definitely going to change. And the only question is, are you going to be, sort of actively helping that change, actively moving forward with it, or just sort of letting it happen? And I think that's, what astrology helps us with is, when we see these big transits coming and we know they're hitting our chart, we can kind of start to cooperate and start to make moves forward, because there's two ways. Well, probably more than 2 ways, but there's at least 2 ways that a transit can happen. It can happen to you, or it can happen kind of for you. When it happens for you, you're like already kind of moving in that direction, and then the universe is sort of supporting you making those moves. But if you're not making those moves, and then you're getting these kinds of transits, like what I'm getting, or what this person was getting, where you're having all these transits happening on your career point. If you're not making any moves to change your career, and you get a kind of transit, then you're going to have stuff just happen to you, and it could seem catastrophic. Like maybe you lose your job, and it's just you don't know what you're going to do. Not to like get, I don't want to spread like a fear virus, but I'm just saying as an example, when we're not in flow with the transits, then it can feel like stuff is happening and it's outside of our control. But if we have a little bit of knowledge of what the transits are showing us about the next step in our life, then we can cooperate with them. So I'm going to wrap this up, but basically, look in your chart. Anything, like I mentioned, the end of this year, very high numbers, 26 to 29. If we're looking at 2025, 26, 27, anything you've got from 0 to 4, 5, 6, even 7 degrees is going to be hit by this configuration in the next few years. So, for instance, if all these planets are hitting your Venus, your relationships are really going to change. If they're all hitting your Mercury, maybe something to do with communication is really going to change for you, or your mental processes. If they're all hitting your Sun, then it's your sense of identity or your sense of purpose. If they're all hitting your Moon, then it's going to be more about your deeper emotional states, and the Moon is about how you feel safe. So there's if you've got all 3 planets hitting your Moon at the same time, I'd say that's going to be a very deep emotional transformation that's going to be coming up for you. If they're all hitting your Mars, it's going to be about how you assert yourself, and so on. And we talked about, if they're hitting your midheaven, and so on. If they're hitting your descendant, again, it's going to be about relationships. So, so if you know a little bit about astrology, I would definitely look at your chart and look at stuff hitting those numbers. And you can always book a reading with your favorite astrologer. If you don't have a favorite astrologer, I do readings, and you can find me at deepastrology.org. I can't mention my prices here, but you can certainly just reach out and ask me a question through that site or through my Facebook page. You can communicate with me on my Deep Astrology Facebook page. I'm always happy to answer questions, about stuff like this. So, Yeah, I think I'll leave it there. And I remind people we have the Magical Marketplace and Psychic Fair coming up in Boxborough, Massachusetts. And that is the first weekend in April, I believe, the 6th and the 7th. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And there's going to be, lots of stuff related to astrology and Wicca. There's going to be psychic readings there. There's going to be, crystals and like sound healing. There's going to be music and stuff. I think it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. And from what I've heard, it's a very well-run, professionally done, conference of this nature. There's definitely some, bigger names that speak. I'm going to be doing readings for the whole weekend. So one thing I'm bummed about is I won't be able to go to any of the, I'll be able to give my lecture, but I won't be able to see any of the other workshops or lectures because it looks like, there's going to be a lot of interesting stuff presented there, beyond just walking around and maybe, getting a reading or, buying some cool clothing or crystals or whatever. There's going to be a lot of great speakers there. So that's the the Magical Marketplace and Psychic Fair in Boxborough. And I'm Patrick, and hope to see you there. If not, I'll see you here next time. So thanks.